step. So we've had you, the presenter, we've had treasure your audience, produce your message. Now the most important thing is create the connection. Okay, create the connection with your audience. In the international speech contest, some people say you should never have or rely on audience participation. But Ed Tate in 2000, a big part of his speech was audience participation. He had a slogan that was something like, "It's one of those days." So this is something he used again, the spaced repetition throughout his speech, one of those days. And actually during the speech, he was actually then just doing the gesture, and the audience were saying back the words, "It's one of those days." And he was advised, actually, don't do that, it's too dangerous, it's too risky. But it's a great connection, isn't it? When you're looking when you're scoring on the ballot, what's the audience reaction? And you've got the audience, it's like, shouting back the main message of the speech, then that's something that's very powerful. So you have to decide how much of the audience participation you really want to have. Maybe the gesture one is a safer one to go with. But what else should you be doing to increase a connection with the audience? What are some things you can do? Humor, questions, asking questions. Even questions that the audience don't need to answer, but just putting those questions in. One thing you can do is when you're moving from your story and you want to relate this back to, you want to connect it to the audience, you can use a bridging question. For example, if you've talked about when maybe your business has gone bankrupt and the main message about how you can overcome adversity. So your bridging question could be, how many of you have gone through a bankrupt company? Maybe it's not many, but here's what you can learn, right? So you can move from your story, use a bridging question that the audience are thinking, and then focus on delivering a broader message. Because you have to remember, the audience have certain types of things that they always react to in a speech contest. Well, what are some things that work very well in the international speech contest? Yeah, people are always ill, right? If you have dying relatives or things like that always seems to pop up for some reason in the speech contest. It might not apply to most of the people entering the contest here, but in the States, the contestants are slightly older, so you tend to have children. People talking about their children and the things that they've done with their son and those kind of things tend to pop up. What do you think would work in China because you got to be #1 in China before you can get to America. So you got to connect with your audience here first before you get up to the next level. What did we hear in the last contest in Guangzhou? Almost 3/4 of the speeches were talking about relationships, dating, right? It seemed like everybody was looking for the perfect Mr. Right or Miss Right, and that seemed to create a lot of excitement in the audience. So if you know that you have a young, predominantly single audience, what is your content, or what are you doing to create that connection? You don't have to dumb it down, but what kind of connections can you deliver then? How can you relate to this audience? And then for the guy, and I hope it's someone from Shanghai who does win the China level, then you're going to have to get a whole different set of advice to do at the international level, because it's a totally different audience.